You are a doctor, right? You are a animal chiropractor. You are a chiropractor, you're a veterinarian. You have been in practice for 5 days, 5 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. This is a story about your finances. Not just yours, but everybody's. Because this is the same story I hear from many people. And I want you to know that we've all been there. Everybody's probably started out at that place. Because money is voodoo topic. You don't talk about it at home. Parents don't want to talk about it, probably because they're stressed about it. They don't want to tell their kids things like, we don't have any money, or we're tanking, or they don't want to tell their kids things like, we are investing all of that money so that you'll have it later, but you don't get it right now. Whatever they're doing, they're not talking to their children about how to use their funds and how to use their money. And that bleeds down into doctors who have practices, and I see this a lot. They have a practice, they run this practice, they are, the famous XYZ doctor who sees tons of animals, and they have zero money. They don't have money to share, they don't have money to do the things that they want to do or need to do, and they also don't have the funds to say, I am going to support X, Y, and Z. Because they would like to, but they can't, because they just don't have it. And they oftentimes go to work because they're ill. They go to work because they need the money, not because they're taking care of themselves. So they're not taking their own advice on that either. And these are things that we hear from many, many doctors. And I heard a story the other day about a doctor who really didn't want to talk about how to manage the money in the practice because my spouse does that. My spouse takes care of all that. So here is a story about what happens when you don't at least know what's going on in that. And you probably know the story already. All right. So my spouse takes care of that. I just go to work. I love what I do. I bring my check home. I put it in the bank. We're saving my checks in a bank for other things. And my spouse's checks are paying all the bills. And we hear that, but there's a certain level of disconnect there. As a doctor, you should have a sense of what your funds are doing. Oh, but, my spouse is taking care of all those things, so we're okay. Well, how do you know? How do you know what happens to that check you put in the bank? Oh, it's in my savings. We're not going to spend it. We're saving it for a house, a second house, or whatever. Okay, those are all good things. However, we physically change, we mentally change how we think about work. Those are the same people who tell me I don't have the money for X. I don't have the money to afford support or coaching or to learn how to grow my practice. I don't have the money to learn how to grow my practice because my spouse takes care of all that. And here's the moral of that story. Oh yeah, but I have a car. I have a credit card that I spend money with. It's my credit card, so I get to spend money. But do you have intention for that money? Do you have a theoretical intention for the funds that you plan to spend? Do you have a goal in mind for those funds to help you grow your practice, help you grow your wealth, help you grow your legacy? Well, no, I just get to, but I can't spend money because I don't have it, although I have a card of my own. Guys, we're 21st century here. If you don't have some visual idea and cognitive idea of what the money that you bring in does for you as a family, then number one, the system you're using is too complicated and crazy. And number two, it's not changing how you think. about your own wealth. You've heard me talk about profit first before, and money through accounts so that you can see it. When we think about, so we could maybe learn to play basketball, right? We could watch basketball all day long. Maybe we play it on an app. But when we go to play actual basketball on the court, it's a different deal. There are other people, it's sweaty, the court's slippery, we get to feel a bunch of things. That changes how we interact. It changes how our body interacts with gravity. Moving that money through profit first is the same concept. Being able to physically move that money from one account to the other, to put it in places so you know it's secure and there, lets you physically know that you're interacting with your income, with your legacy, with your wealth. So that's kind of step number one. The moral of the story, the other story, is probably a TMI kind of story, because it's about me and my experience with my spouse's taking care of the funds. A long time ago, and I forget this part of my history because it was that kind of history, but I was reminded of it when I was told by a coaching client that, oh, my spouse takes care of the funds. We just put my paycheck away and save it, and we use his to pay all of the expenses, but I don't have any money to spend. So the moral of this story goes the same way. When I first got out of vet school, I was married to someone who said, oh, I make enough money to do everything. You don't have to worry about it. We'll just put your money away. And so he opened the bank accounts. He put the money in. When I got my check, I would give it to him and he would take it to the bank. Sometimes my check would sit on his desk for weeks. And I would get frustrated because it wasn't going where it was supposed to. It wasn't in the bank. But I didn't have time, because I was working too much, to pay attention to what was happening. Fast forward about a year and a half later, we're getting a divorce. I go to the bank to find out how much money is in the account that we're putting my money in. Guess what? I didn't have signing privileges on those accounts, and so they wouldn't tell me. So an entire year's salary for me disappeared. Poof! I had no way to track it. I had no way to tell what was going on. I was not smart enough to ask for those records at the time, and we couldn't get them because my name wasn't on them. So don't let money go away because you are not wanting to pay attention to it, or it seems too complicated. It's not complicated. I recommend to all of my students and all of my coaching clients, whether they are in a relationship or not, whether they're running their own business or not, read Profit First. Learn how to watch your income grow. Learn how to watch how you use your income closely so that you can be there to help others, so that you can have the funds when you need them, when you want them, to give away. You know, we give away a ton of things every year. And one of the reasons we can do that is that we, as a school or as a business and as a family, know where our funds are going. We can see it in the way we manage it. So if you do nothing else, if you need coaching, find me at amyhyack.com. But if you do nothing else, read Profit First. Don't just get the book, but actually read the book. And then if you need help with how to implement it, find me today at amyhyack.com, where I help animal chiropractors build profitable animal chiropractic practices so that they know where their legacy is going and they can help their community grow.